Let's stay in Victoria and catch up with Liberal MP Richard Riordan now, who joins us via Skype from Colac. I want to talk about COVID-related issues, Richard, but firstly, just your reaction to that tragic news in your own state.
Yeah, look, very sad, Chris, and we saw it covered a little bit earlier today with some of the rules that have come in by the state government complicating volunteer support, and that's disappointing too. But look, my thoughts and sympathies, I've got kids that age, and I can only feel for the parents and the extended family and friends of the Walls family. So, yeah, tragic news, and there's nothing more you can say really that will give comfort to that family. Just
that controversy you referred to, Richard, there were locals who understandably wanted to join in the search, civilians in the community, and because of the COVID rules, they were rejected, or was some accommodation come to in the end?
Well, look, I'm on the other side of the state, Chris, so not totally over it. I just saw the Premier's press conference this morning when he dealt with it, and what I was disappointed was once again just dismissed any form of criticism or concern or questioning that anyone in the community had. I mean, he sort of basically said to the media, I'm not aware of this problem, so therefore it doesn't exist. And I know as a country member, Chris, if that happened in my community, wild horses would have to be used to try and hold back the community that would rush to the aid of that family and others around. So I wear that hat in thinking, you know, that's a pretty semi-rural area out through there, a bit of a mixture of both. And I can only imagine that the community would have been straight onto it to try and help that family and that young boy be found. So I understand how the community would have felt, and to think that the government would have used or allowed their coronavirus chaos to interfere with that does seem rather strange and once again very unhelpful and lacking in complete empathy, and that seems to be a bit of a trademark of Daniel Andrews these days.
Well, that's a tragic outcome then. Let's move on to some of the other political issues to do with the pandemic, and there are signals coming from crossbenchers now that Daniel Andrews might have trouble getting this emergency powers bill through the upper house. What do you think the chances are that it could be knocked off in the upper house? You've got very significant legal figures now protesting effectively against these laws.
Well, look, Chris, I think you're right. What the enormous irony in this is Fiona Patten and the Greens in particular, and even Andy Meddick, the Animal Justice, you know, these are the types of people that for 15 years have berated governments for locking people up, have berated governments for not upholding their human rights, have berated governments for searching and seizing and entering people's property. These have traditionally been areas that these three groups, you know, would never cross. And yet they folded a couple of weeks ago with the state of emergency powers. They literally folded. They expected nothing of the government. They didn't work with the 10 other crossbenchers that at least were prepared to hold the government to some account. They have copped a whacking over this. And if the emails and correspondence, you know, everyone else's offices are getting, they are under a bit of pressure. And I think if they were to fold without expecting some sort of accountability back from the government on what a hotel quarantine has prized out is completely unnecessary changes to the law, then, and God help them really, and God help Victorians, because it's just getting beyond ridiculous here in Victoria in the powers Daniel Andrews keeps giving himself.
Do you think that they're going to block these laws?
I would hope. Look, there's only one more of these three has to see common sense. We heard after the last dash in with the Greens member, Samantha Ratnam, who came back from maternity leave for a vote and then disappeared and said she's going to be gone for 3 months. I mean, it'll be interesting to see whether she stays away or comes back to support the government. And certainly Fiona Patten and the Reason Party have been under a fair bit of fire, and even she is conceding that the curfew and other lockdowns are becoming excessive. So all the Victorian people want is these three guys actually expect something back from Daniel Andrews in terms of accountability, something he has just been loath to show any inclination for over recent weeks.
Yeah, they're deeply worrying. Now, you mentioned the inquiry into a hotel quarantine. More evidence today that nobody in the cabinet, from the Premier down, or even in the bureaucracy, claims to have any idea who authorised, who made the crucial decisions here. I mean, it's just laughable at one level. It's almost as if there's some invisible person making the decisions, the crucial decisions in Victoria at the start of this pandemic.
Well, Chris, not only is it sort of an enormous case of forget-me-not, I mean, no one remembers anything. I watched most of it today, and we had Kim Peake, the head of Health Service. She just had no recollection of anything, had no idea who was responsible for anything. People were just duck-shoving left, right and centre, and in fairness to the inquiry solicitors, they were doing their darndest to try and get an answer, and you know, the lawyers representing the government were doing their best to sort of interfere and ask the questions, not to be so probing. But the big concern for Victorians, of course, Chris, is we're going to be facing this massive deficit and financial problem. Now, if this government maintains its modus operandi of no one's responsible, no one knows and no one asks questions. I mean, many of the issues you've tackled on this program around deals with China, financing deals, all sorts of other government considerations that are becoming of great concern to Victorians. If we are to expect this same level of I don't know, I didn't hear, I didn't ask the question, I got emails but didn't read them, I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And I don't know how much longer the media and the Victorian public is going to put up with a government that doesn't know who's doing anything. It's quite frankly ridiculous.
It is quite extraordinary. Thanks for joining us again, Richard.
No worries, thank you.
Richard Riordan, the Victorian Liberal MP, and it is amazing in this inquiry, nobody made the decisions at the moment. No one is putting up their hands to say they made the decisions.